was confronted by another.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. If you're looking for an in depth review of Moana, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll cover the full story, the incredible cast, box office performance, and standout performances. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's dive right in. The story begins on the peaceful and beautiful island of Motunui, a place surrounded by endless ocean and rich with tradition where life flows in harmony with nature. The people of the island live simple yet meaningful lives, guided by customs passed down through generations. At the center of this world is Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, a young girl born into leadership as the daughter of the island's chief, played by Temuera Morrison. From the very beginning, Moana is different, not because of her position, but because of something deep inside her that constantly pulls her toward the ocean. As a child, Moana shares a unique and almost magical connection with the sea. In one of her earliest moments, the ocean itself seems to respond to her presence, moving gently toward her as if recognizing her importance. This interaction is not loud or dramatic, but quiet and meaningful, hinting that her journey will be tied to something much greater than ordinary life on the island. While other children play on the shore, Moana feels drawn beyond it, toward the vast unknown that stretches far past the horizon. However, this natural calling is met with resistance from her father, Chief Tui. Having witnessed the dangers of the ocean in the past, he strongly believes that their people should stay within the safety of the island. To him, leadership means protection, stability, and preserving tradition. He teaches Moana that everything they need is already on Motunui and that the ocean represents risk, not opportunity. This creates the first major conflict in Moana's life, a clash between her inner desire to explore and the responsibility she feels toward her family and her people. As Moana grows older, this conflict becomes stronger. She begins training to become the future chief, learning how to care for her people, solve problems, and maintain balance within the community. She takes her responsibilities seriously, showing compassion, intelligence, and a natural ability to lead. Yet, despite her efforts, there is always something missing, a feeling that she is meant to do more than stay within the boundaries of the island. At the same time, subtle changes begin to appear around Motunui. The coconut trees start to fail, the fish become harder to catch, and the balance that once defined the island begins to weaken. These signs create concern among the people, but no one fully understands the cause. While others focus on immediate solutions, Moana begins to sense that the problem may be connected to something beyond the island, something linked to the ocean she has always felt drawn to. In the background of the story, Moana's grandmother, Tala, voiced by Rachel House, plays a crucial role in shaping her understanding of herself. Unlike Chief Tui, Tala encourages Moana to listen to her heart and to embrace the connection she feels with the ocean. She shares stories of their ancestors, revealing that their people were once voyagers who explored the seas rather than feared them. This revelation becomes a turning point, planting the idea that Moana's calling is not something to ignore, but something to understand. As Moana begins to uncover this hidden history, her internal struggle reaches a new level. She realizes that her desire to explore is not just personal curiosity, it is part of her identity and her heritage. The island she loves is still her home, but the ocean now represents a path she cannot ignore. As Moana, voiced by Cravalho, continues to struggle between her responsibility to the island and the powerful pull she feels toward the ocean, the situation on Motunui begins to worsen in ways that can no longer be ignored. The natural balance that once sustained her people is slowly breaking down. The coconut trees, once full of life, start to rot from within, their fruit turning black and unusable. The ocean, which once provided an endless supply of fish, becomes strangely empty, forcing the villagers to venture farther out than ever before, something they have long been taught to avoid. This growing crisis creates tension within the community as the people begin to worry about survival. Chief Tui, voiced by Temuera Morrison, remains firm in his belief that the solution lies in staying close to the island and trusting tradition. To him, leaving the reef is too dangerous, and the unknown ocean represents a risk that could cost lives. He encourages Moana to focus on her duties as the future chief, guiding her people through the crisis using the knowledge they already have. But Moana cannot ignore the deeper feeling inside her, the sense that the answers they need are not on the island but beyond it. This belief is strengthened when her grandmother, Tala, voiced by Rachel House, reveals the ancient story of Tefiti. According to legend, Tefiti was a powerful and life-giving force who created islands and sustained the natural world. However, her heart, a small but incredibly powerful green stone, was stolen long ago by the demigod Maui, voiced by Dwayne Johnson. This act disrupted the balance of nature, unleashing a growing darkness that has been spreading ever since. What once seemed like isolated problems on Motunui now becomes part of a much larger issue. The decay of the island, the dying crops, and the empty ocean are all connected to this ancient event. The world itself is slowly losing its life, and the only way to restore it is to return the heart of Tifiti to its rightful place. Tala gives Moana the heart, the same glowing stone that holds the power to restore balance, and entrusts her with a mission that no one else can fulfill. This moment becomes deeply emotional as Tala encourages Moana to embrace who she truly is, not just as a future chief, but as someone chosen for a greater purpose. For the first time, Moana's internal conflict begins to resolve. Her desire to explore the ocean is no longer just a personal dream, it is a responsibility tied to saving her people and the world beyond. However, this decision is not easy. Moana must choose between staying with her family and protecting her island in the traditional way, or leaving everything behind to follow a path filled with uncertainty and danger. The fear of the unknown still exists, and the weight of her responsibility feels overwhelming. Yet the worsening condition of the island and the truth she has learned make it impossible to ignore what needs to be done. In a deeply emotional turning point, Moana makes her choice. She decides to sail beyond the reef into the vast and unpredictable ocean to find Maui and restore the heart of Tefiti. This decision marks the true beginning of her journey, not just as an explorer, but as a leader willing to take risks for the sake of her people. As she sets out on her voyage, the ocean that once called to her now becomes both her path and her greatest challenge. The safety of the island fades behind her, replaced by endless water and uncertainty. Yet within that uncertainty lies purpose, and within that purpose lies the chance to restore balance to the world. Moana is no longer standing at a crossroads, she has chosen her path. The island is in danger, the truth has been revealed, and Moana has finally answered the call of the ocean. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, sails beyond the reef for the first time in her life, the reality of her decision begins to unfold in ways she could never have fully imagined. What once felt like a beautiful and mysterious calling now reveals itself as a vast, unpredictable, and often dangerous world. The ocean is no longer just calm and inviting, it shifts constantly, with powerful waves, strong winds, and moments of complete uncertainty. Moana, despite her courage, quickly realizes that her connection to the sea does not automatically make her an expert navigator. Her early attempts at sailing are filled with struggle. She faces strong currents that push her off course, sudden storms that test her strength, and moments where she nearly loses control of her boat entirely. The confidence she felt when leaving the island is challenged again and again, forcing her to adapt, learn, and grow with each passing moment. There are times when fear begins to rise, when the distance from home feels overwhelming, and when the silence of the open ocean becomes almost too much to bear. Yet, even in these moments, she refuses to turn back. The responsibility she carries, the heart of Tefiti, and the hope of her people keeps her moving forward. The ocean itself seems to play an active role in her journey. At times it helps her, guiding her toward her destination, and at other times it tests her, forcing her to prove her determination. This relationship between Moana and the ocean becomes one of the most unique aspects of her story. Not just a setting, but a silent companion that both challenges and supports her. After enduring these early struggles, Moana finally reaches a mysterious island, the place where she is destined to meet the demigod Maui, voiced by Dwayne Johnson. This meeting, however, is far from what she expected. Instead of a heroic figure ready to help, Maui appears confident, self centered, and more interested in his own reputation than in saving the world. He is charismatic and powerful, but also arrogant and dismissive, immediately underestimating Moana and her mission. Their first interaction is filled with tension and humor. Maui does not take Moana seriously, referring to her as just another human without understanding the importance of her journey. He even attempts to take control of the situation, trying to claim the boat and leave her behind. This moment highlights the sharp contrast between the two characters, Moana, determined and driven by purpose, and Maui, focused on his own image and past achievements. However, Moana refuses to back down. Despite Maui's attitude and attempts to dismiss her, she stands her ground, insisting that he must help her restore the heart of Tefiti. This confrontation becomes a defining moment for her character. She is no longer the uncertain girl who questioned her path. She is now someone willing to challenge even a powerful demigod to fulfill her mission. The dynamic between Moana and Maui quickly becomes one of the central elements of the story. Their personalities clash constantly, creating both conflict and moments of humor. Maui's overconfidence and sarcasm contrast with Moana's persistence and sense of responsibility. At times, it seems impossible that they will be able to walk together, yet, it is clear that both of them are essential to completing the journey. As the interaction continues, it becomes evident that Maui is not entirely unwilling to help. He is simply driven by his own motivations and past experiences. His reluctance hints at deeper layers to his character, suggesting that his actions are influenced by more than just arrogance. By the end of this part, Moana's journey has taken a major step forward. She has left behind the safety of her island, faced the challenges of the open ocean, and encountered the one person who can help her complete her mission. However, gaining Maui's cooperation proves to be just as difficult as crossing the ocean itself. The ocean has tested her, the hero has been found, but the real challenge has only just begun. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, continues her journey alongside the unpredictable demigod Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, the dynamic between them begins to shift from pure conflict towards something more complex. At first, Maui still treats the situation lightly, focusing more on his own image and comfort than on the mission of restoring the heart of Tefiti. However, as time passes, it becomes clear that Moana's determination is not something he can easily ignore. she continues to push forward, refusing to be dismissed, and slowly begins to influence Maui's perspective. During their time together on the ocean, Moana starts to understand that Maui is not just arrogant for no reason, his personality is shaped by his past. Through moments of conversation and reflection, his backstory begins to unfold. Maui reveals that he was not always a celebrated hero. In fact, he was once abandoned as a child, left alone without belonging or purpose. The powers he now proudly displays were given to him later, and his heroic actions, shaping islands, controlling nature, and helping humanity, were all driven by a desire to earn love and acceptance. This revelation changes the way Moana sees him. What once appeared as arrogance now reveals itself as insecurity hidden behind confidence. Maui's need for recognition and praise is not just about ego, it is about filling a void that has existed within him for a long time. His past actions, including stealing the heart of Tefiti, are now seen in a different light, not as pure selfishness, but as a misguided attempt to prove his worth. At the same time, Maui begins to recognize something in Moana that he cannot easily dismiss. Her determination, her refusal to give up, and her belief in the mission begin to challenge his own way of thinking. She is not seeking fame or recognition. She is driven by responsibility and care for her people. This contrast creates a subtle shift in their relationship where conflict begins to make space for understanding. As their journey continues, Maui reluctantly begins to train Moana in the skills she needs to survive on the ocean. These moments are both challenging and transformative for her. She learns how to properly control the boat, how to read the movements of the sea, and how to react under pressure. The training is not easy. Maui often mocks her mistakes and pushes her limits, but each failure becomes a lesson that strengthens her confidence. Moana's growth during this phase is significant. She is no longer just relying on instinct or hope. She is actively developing the skills needed to complete her mission. Each small success builds her confidence, while each failure teaches her resilience. This process reflects a deeper transformation from someone who feels called by the ocean to someone who is becoming capable of navigating it. For Maui, this period is equally important. Though he may not openly admit it, he begins to see Moana as more than just a burden or an inconvenience. Her persistence and belief begin to influence him, slowly breaking down the walls he has built around himself. The idea of helping her shifts from something he is forced into to something he begins to consider willingly. Their first true moment of teamwork emerges during a challenge that requires both of them to act together. Instead of working against each other, they begin to coordinate their actions, combining Moana's determination with Maui's strength and experience. This moment is not perfect, but it marks the beginning of a partnership, one built not on trust yet, but on necessity and growing respect. The relationship between Moana and Maui has evolved from conflict to cooperation. They are still very different, still clashing at times, but they are no longer working alone. Each has something the other needs, and together they begin to move closer to their shared goal. The past has been revealed, the training has begun, and a fragile partnership is finally taking shape. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, and Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, continue their journey across the vast ocean, their fragile partnership is soon tested by a mission that pushes them into one of the most dangerous places imaginable, the realm of monsters known as Lalutai. This dark, mysterious underworld is unlike anything Moana has seen before. It is a place where light barely reaches, where creatures lurk in the shadows, and where danger exists at every turn. The reason for this risky journey becomes clear. Maui cannot fully use his powers without his magical fish hook, which was lost long ago and is now believed to be in Lalotai. Without it, he is not the powerful shapeshifter he once was, and without his full strength, their chances of restoring the heart of Te Fiti become much lower. For Moana, this means that before they can complete their main mission, they must first face a challenge that could easily destroy them both. As they descend into Lalotai, the atmosphere shifts dramatically. The vibrant colors of the ocean are replaced by darkness and eerie silence. Strange creatures move through the shadows, and every step forward feels uncertain. For Moana, this is one of her most frightening experiences so far. Unlike the open ocean, which at least offers space and movement, Lalotai feels confined and unpredictable. Yet, despite her fear, she continues forward, knowing that turning back is not an option. Their target within this dangerous world is Tamatoa, a giant and intimidating creature who hoards valuable objects, including Maui's hook. Tamatoa, voiced by Clements, is not just physically powerful, but also manipulative and self-absorbed, obsessed with collecting shiny treasures that reflect his desire for attention and status. His personality mirrors Maui's in some ways, creating an interesting contrast between the two characters. The encounter with Tamatoa quickly turns into a tense and chaotic situation. Moana must rely not only on courage but also on quick thinking to survive. Unlike Maui, who is used to relying on his strength, Moana uses strategy and creativity to navigate the danger. She distracts, adapts, and responds to the situation in ways that highlight her growing confidence as a leader. Maui, on the other hand, faces a different kind of challenge. When he finally retrieves his hook and attempts to use it, he realizes that his powers are no longer as reliable as they once were. His transformations are unstable, shifting unpredictably and failing at critical moments. This creates a major setback, not just physically but emotionally. The tool that once defined his identity and power now becomes a source of doubt. This moment exposes a deeper vulnerability within Maui. His confidence begins to crack, revealing the fear that without his abilities, he may no longer be the hero he believes himself to be. For Moana, this becomes an important realization that even someone as powerful as Maui can struggle with insecurity and loss. Despite the chaos and danger, Moana manages to secure the hook and escape Lalotai with Maui. This victory is not clean or easy, but it marks a significant step forward in their journey. However, the challenges they faced leave a lasting impact. Maui is no longer the same confident demigod he appeared to be, and Moana now understands that their journey will require more than just strength. It will require trust, resilience, and belief in each other. By the end of this part, the partnership between Moana and Maui is tested in ways that reveal both their strengths and their weaknesses. They have survived one of their most dangerous challenges, but the journey ahead now feels even more uncertain. The monster world has been faced, the hook has been recovered, but the confidence of a hero has begun to break. After escaping the dangerous realm of Lalotai, Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, and Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, returned to the open ocean. But the energy between them has changed. The victory they achieved feels incomplete, overshadowed by the cracks that have appeared in Maui's confidence. Holding his magical fish hook once again, he attempts to reclaim his former strength, but the results are far from what he expected. His transformations remain unstable, shifting unpredictably and failing at crucial moments. What was once a symbol of his identity and power now feels unreliable, almost foreign in his hands. For Maui, this realization hits deeply. His entire sense of self has always been tied to his abilities, the idea that he is a hero because of what he can do. Without that certainty, he begins to question his worth. The confident, larger-than-life figure starts to show signs of hesitation, something Moana has never seen before. His jokes become less frequent, his tone more serious, and his actions more cautious. For the first time, Maui is not leading the situation, he is uncertain within it. Moana, however, begins to rise in the opposite direction. The challenges she has faced, The ocean, the monsters, the conflict with Maui have strengthened her in ways that are now becoming visible. She no longer waits for guidance or approval. She begins to take initiative, making decisions with clarity and confidence. Her growth is not sudden, but earned through every failure and every lesson she has experienced so far. As they continue their journey toward restoring the heart of Te Fiti, the ocean once again becomes both their path and their test. But this time, the balance between them has shifted. Where Maui once dominated with strength and control, Moana now begins to lead with determination and purpose. She encourages Maui not with force but with belief, reminding him that his value is not limited to his powers but also lies in his choices. This emotional shift sets the stage for one of the most intense moments of their journey, their first direct encounter with Te Kā. The closer they get to their destination, the more the environment begins to change. The ocean grows darker, the air heavier, and the sense of danger becomes impossible to ignore. The peaceful rhythm of the sea is replaced by tension, as if the world itself is warning them of what lies ahead. When Te Kā finally appears, the scale of the challenge becomes clear. This fiery, destructive force is unlike anything Moana has faced before. It is not just an obstacle, but a living embodiment of chaos and rage, standing between them and their goal. The heat, the intensity, and the sheer presence of Te Kā create an overwhelming situation where even Maui's strength feels insufficient. As Maui attempts to confront Te Kā, his earlier doubts begin to affect his actions. His transformations falter, his confidence weakens, and the hook, already unstable, struggles under the pressure of the battle. This moment becomes a breaking point for him. The realization that he may not be strong enough to win creates fear, something he has long avoided. Moana, witnessing this, refuses to back down. Despite the danger, she continues to push forward, determined to complete her mission. However, the situation quickly escalates beyond control. Te Kā's power forces them to retreat, making it clear that this is not a challenge they can overcome easily. During this confrontation, Maui's hook is damaged further, deepening his fear and uncertainty. This damage is not just physical, it symbolizes the breaking of his confidence and the identity he has built around his strength. Faced with this reality, Maui makes a difficult decision. He chooses to step away from the mission, unwilling to risk losing the last piece of what defines him. For Moana, this moment is devastating. The partner she fought to trust, the ally she believed in, now chooses to leave when the challenge becomes greatest. She is left alone, facing not only the danger ahead but also the emotional weight of abandonment. By the end of this part, the journey reaches one of its most critical emotional points. Moana stands alone on the ocean, holding the heart of Te Fiti, with the path ahead more dangerous than ever. Maui, once her strongest ally, has stepped away, leaving her to face the mission on her own. The hero has doubted himself, the leader has risen, and the greatest challenge now lies ahead, alone. After Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, leaves the journey, Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, is left completely alone in the middle of the vast and endless ocean. The silence that surrounds her is no longer peaceful. It feels heavy, almost overwhelming, as if the absence of her companion has taken away more than just support. For the first time since she left Motunui, the journey begins to feel uncertain in a way that she cannot easily overcome. The boat drifts slowly across the water, carried by currents that seem indifferent to her purpose. The ocean, which once felt like a guiding force, now feels distant and unpredictable. Moana sits in silence, holding the heart of Te Fiti, the very object that represents her mission, yet even that begins to feel like a burden rather than a source of hope. Without Maui, the path forward seems unclear, and the challenge ahead, facing Te Kā alone, feels impossible. This moment becomes one of deep emotional struggle. Moana begins to question everything: her decision to leave the island, her belief in the ocean's call, and even her ability to complete the mission she was chosen for. The confidence she built through her journey starts to crack under the weight of isolation and doubt. The memories of her people, her family, and the island she left behind begin to surface, not as motivation, but as reminders of what she might lose if she fails. As the night falls, the loneliness becomes even more intense. The stars above, once symbols of guidance, now feel distant and unreachable. The ocean moves quietly around her, offering no clear direction, as if waiting for her to decide what to do next. This stillness forces Moana to confront her thoughts without distraction, and in doing so, she begins to feel the full weight of her responsibility. At her lowest point, Moana begins to consider giving up. The idea of returning the heart, of letting go of the mission, slowly enters her mind. It is not a decision made out of weakness alone, but from exhaustion, emotional, physical, and spiritual. She has faced challenges she never imagined, and now, without support, the path forward feels too difficult to continue. In this moment of vulnerability, the journey that once felt like destiny now feels like a question without an answer. Moana is no longer certain of her role or her purpose. The connection she once felt so strongly with the ocean seems quiet, almost absent, leaving her to wonder if she misunderstood the calling from the beginning. Yet, even within this darkness, there is a quiet tension, a sense that this moment is not the end but a turning point. The struggle she faces is not just about completing the mission, but about understanding who she is without the reassurance of others. As she sits alone on the boat, holding the heart in her hands, the choice before her becomes clear: continue forward into uncertainty, or turn back and leave the mission unfinished. This decision is not about strength alone, but about belief. Belief in herself, in the journey, and in the purpose that brought her this far. By the end of this part, Moana stands at her most vulnerable point. She is no longer supported by Maui, no longer guided by clear signs, and no longer certain of her path. Everything now depends on what she chooses to believe in this moment of doubt. The ocean is silent, the path is unclear, and Moana must decide whether to continue or let go. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, sits alone in the quiet vastness of the ocean, the emotional weight of her journey reaches its deepest point. The boat drifts slowly, carried by currents that seem directionless, mirroring her own state of mind. The heart of Te Fiti rests in her hands, glowing faintly, once a symbol of purpose, now feeling almost distant, as if it belongs to a path she is no longer sure she can follow. The silence around her is not just external, it reflects the stillness within her, where doubt has taken the place of confidence and exhaustion has replaced determination. In this moment of complete vulnerability, Moana begins to let go. Her thoughts drift back to Motunui, the safety of her home, the warmth of her family, and the life she left behind. For the first time, the idea of returning feels comforting rather than disappointing. The mission that once felt like destiny now feels like something too heavy to carry alone. Slowly, she lowers the heart toward the ocean, as if surrendering the responsibility that has defined her journey. But just as this moment reaches its quiet conclusion, something changes. The ocean, which had felt distant and silent, begins to respond once again, not with force but with gentle movement, as if refusing to let her give up so easily. From this stillness, a presence emerges, one that feels both familiar and deeply personal. The spirit of her grandmother, Tala, voiced by Rachel House, appears in a form that reflects her connection to the ocean, graceful, calm, and filled with warmth. This moment is not loud or overwhelming but deeply emotional. Tala does not command Moana or force her to continue. Instead, she reminds her of something far more important: who she truly is. Through gentle words and presence, she brings Moana back to the beginning of her journey, to the connection she felt with the ocean as a child, to the stories of her ancestors, and to the truth that her path was never about perfection or certainty. It was about understanding herself. As Tala's presence surrounds her, Moana begins to see her journey in a new light. The struggle she faced, the mistakes she made, and the moments of doubt she experienced were not signs of failure. They were part of her growth. She realizes that her strength does not come from always knowing what to do, but from continuing even when she does not. This realization creates a powerful shift within her. The doubt that once filled her mind begins to fade, replaced by clarity and acceptance. She no longer sees herself as someone who must prove her worth or complete a mission perfectly. Instead, she understands that she is the one chosen for this journey not because she is flawless, but because she is willing to keep going. In this moment of awakening, Moana rises, no longer weighed down by fear. She reclaims the heart of Te Fiti, not as a burden, but as a responsibility she is ready to carry once again. The ocean responds to her renewed sense of purpose, moving with her, guiding her forward as it once did. The connection she thought she had lost is now stronger than ever because it is no longer based on uncertainty. It is rooted in understanding. Her identity becomes clear. She is not just the daughter of a chief, not just a voyager, and not just someone chosen by the ocean. She is all of these things combined. Her past, her struggles, and her growth all come together to define who she is in this moment. As Tala's spirit gently fades, leaving behind a sense of peace and strength, Moana stands at the edge of her transformation. She is no longer the girl who left the island searching for answers. She is now a leader who understands her purpose and is ready to face whatever lies ahead. The ocean is no longer silent. The doubt has been replaced with clarity, and Moana has finally discovered who she truly is. With her identity finally clear and her spirit fully restored, Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, turns her boat once again toward the dangerous path that lies ahead. The ocean responds immediately, no longer distant or uncertain, but active and guiding, as if it recognizes her renewed determination. The weight she once felt in isolation is gone. Now, the heart of Te Fiti in her hands feels like purpose instead of pressure. Ahead of her lies the same terrifying force she once fled from, Te Ka. The fiery guardian still stands between her and the island of Te Fiti, its massive presence dominating the horizon with heat, destruction, and raw power. This time, however, something has changed. Moana is no longer approaching it with fear or hesitation. She is not the same person who previously retreated. She is focused, aware, and grounded in understanding rather than desperation. Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, is still absent at this stage, leaving Moana to face this challenge with only her own judgment and instincts. But instead of feeling weakened by his absence, she now uses it as clarity. She realizes that the solution is not brute strength nor escape, it is understanding the truth behind what Tekka really is. As she steers closer, Tekka reacts violently, unleashing fire and destruction across the ocean's surface. The environment becomes intense and overwhelming, with waves of heat and ash filling the air. But Moana does not turn away. Instead, she studies the pattern, observing not just the destruction but the movement behind it. She begins to recognize that Tekka is not simply an enemy to be defeated, it is something wounded, something lost. This realization marks a major shift in strategy. Instead of confronting Tekka with force or trying to outmaneuver it, Moana chooses a different path, one based on empathy, understanding, and truth. She uses the ocean not as a battlefield, but as a guide, carefully navigating through danger while holding firmly to the heart of Te Fiti. Every movement is deliberate, every decision shaped by clarity rather than fear. As she moves closer, Tekka's attacks intensify. The fire becomes more aggressive, the environment more unstable, and the distance to safety almost non existent. Yet Moana continues forward, trusting not in strength but in purpose. Her leadership is now fully realized, calm under pressure, focused in chaos, and driven by something deeper than survival. At this critical moment, Maui reappears, having struggled with his own internal conflict after their separation. His return is not dramatic at first, it is uncertain, almost hesitant. He is still dealing with the fear and doubt that previously caused him to step away, but seeing Moana face Teika alone begins to reignite something within him, the sense that this journey is not about individual strength but shared responsibility. The reunion is not immediately perfect, there is tension, unspoken regret, and emotional distance between them. However, the urgency of the situation forces them to act together once again. Moana does not ask for blind support, she communicates her understanding of Teka's true nature. Maui listens, realizing that the mission may not require destruction but restoration. Together they begin to coordinate again, but this time differently. It is no longer about Maui leading and Moana following, or Moana pushing and Maui resisting. It becomes a balance of insight and experience, intuition and strength. Moana's clarity and Maui's power begin to align toward a single goal, reaching Teka not to destroy it, but to reveal the truth hidden within it. By the end of this part, the confrontation is no longer just a battle. It has transformed into a moment of revelation in progress. The path forward is dangerous, but now it is guided by understanding rather than fear. Teka stands ahead. Moana moves forward with purpose, and the truth behind the monster is about to be revealed. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, and Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, continue their final approach toward the massive force known as Teka, the atmosphere of the ocean shifts into something almost unbearable. The once fluid world of water and wind becomes heavy with heat, ash, and violent energy. The closer they move, the more the ocean itself seems to struggle against the imbalance ahead, as if the entire natural world is reacting to something deeply broken. Teka stands before them like an unstoppable wall of fire and destruction, its presence dominating everything around it. Waves boil at its touch, the air burns with intensity, and the horizon itself seems distorted by heat. Yet Moana does not stop. She holds the heart of Tefiti firmly, not as an object of fear anymore, but as a key to something she is beginning to understand. Her focus is no longer on survival, it is on truth. Maui, standing beside her, is still carrying the weight of his earlier failure. His confidence is not fully restored, but something within him is shifting. Watching Moana face the danger without hesitation begins to reignite the part of him that once believed in heroism not just as power but as responsibility. His actions are more careful now, less about proving himself and more about supporting the mission. As they draw even closer, Moana begins to notice something crucial. Teka is not acting like a mindless force of destruction. Its movements are repetitive, almost searching, as if it is not simply attacking but reacting to something it has lost. This realization changes everything. What once appeared as an enemy begins to look like something wounded, something incomplete. Moana's understanding deepens rapidly. She connects the destruction spreading across the world to the stolen heart of Tefiti. The darkness, the decay, the imbalance, all of it is not punishment but consequence. Teka is not the source of the problem, it is the result of it. This truth reframes the entire journey. The mission was never about defeating a monster, but about healing something that was broken long ago. This revelation begins to transform Maui as well. He starts to confront the truth about his own past actions, especially the moment he stole the heart of Tefiti. The confidence he once held begins to shift into regret, not in a way that destroys him, but in a way that pushes him toward change. For the first time, he understands that his actions had consequences far beyond his intention or understanding. As Teka attacks again with overwhelming force, Maui steps forward to protect Moana even though his powers remain unstable. His shape shifting flickers between forms, showing that his strength is no longer guaranteed, but instead of retreating, he chooses to stand his ground. This marks the beginning of his redemption, not through perfection, but through willingness to act despite fear. Moana, however, makes a decision that defines the final direction of their journey. Instead of continuing to treat Tekar as an obstacle, she chooses to approach it directly, trusting her understanding rather than force. She recognizes that the heart she carries is not a weapon or a bargaining tool. It is the missing piece of something that once brought life to everything around it. The ocean responds differently now. It no longer simply guides her forward, it aligns with her intention. The waves begin to open a path, not for escape, but for approach. This moment reinforces Moana's realization that leadership is not about control, but about understanding when to act and how to see beyond fear. Maui watches this shift unfold and begins to understand his true role. He is not the center of this story, he is part of something larger. His strength matters, but it is no longer the deciding factor. What matters now is truth, courage, and the willingness to correct what was once broken. And the final confrontation is no longer just physical, it has become emotional, spiritual, and deeply transformative. The truth about Tekka is fully forming, and the path toward resolution is now visible. Tekka is not just an enemy, it is a consequence of loss, and the final step is not destruction, but restoration. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, and Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, move closer than ever to the fiery force of Tekka, the entire ocean seems to hold its breath. The water beneath them trembles with unstable energy, as if the world itself is aware that something irreversible is about to happen. The heat becomes overwhelming, the sky darkens with ash, and the boundary between destruction and survival feels thinner than ever before. Tekka rises in front of them with terrifying force, unleashing waves of fire that crash against the ocean like living storms. Every movement it makes shakes the environment, forcing both Moana and Maui to struggle just to remain steady. Yet, even in this chaos, Moana's focus does not break. She is no longer looking at Tekka as a monster to be avoided. She is observing it as something that is trying to express pain without understanding it. Maui, still standing beside her, prepares himself for what he believes will be a final act of defense. His hook, though damaged and unstable, remains in his hands, but his confidence is no longer built on pride, it is built on acceptance. He knows now that this battle cannot be won through strength alone. The transformation he has been undergoing throughout the journey reaches a critical point here, as he begins to act not for recognition but for responsibility. As Tekka attacks again, Moana makes a decision that defines everything that has led her to this moment. Instead of retreating or preparing for combat, she chooses to move forward directly into the danger. Holding the heart of Tefiti tightly, she begins to navigate through the chaos, trusting not in strategy alone, but in the truth she has uncovered, that destruction is not always an enemy, and that sometimes what appears lost is simply waiting to be restored. This moment is not easy. Every step forward is met with resistance. The ocean around her boils and churns, the air burns with intensity, and the pressure to turn back is overwhelming. But Moana does not stop. The connection she once felt as a child, the understanding she gained through loss, and the clarity she found in isolation all converge into a single unwavering purpose. Maui, seeing her determination, makes a final choice of his own. Instead of stepping back, he moves forward to support her, even as his powers remain unstable. His role shifts completely. He is no longer the center of strength but a protector of her path. This is the final stage of his redemption arc, where action replaces pride and sacrifice replaces ego. As they reach the closest point to Tekka, Moana realizes the final truth. The heart she carries is not meant to defeat anything. It is meant to restore something that was broken long ago. This understanding changes the emotional weight of the entire journey. The mission is no longer about confrontation, it is about healing. At this exact moment, everything aligns: the ocean, the heart, Moana's understanding, and the presence of Teka itself. The destructive force in front of them is no longer seen as purely an enemy, but as a lost fragment of something greater. The realization builds toward a decision that cannot be reversed. Moana prepares herself for what comes next, not as a warrior, not as someone escaping danger, but as someone ready to restore balance. The world around her feels suspended, as if time itself is waiting for her choice. By the end of this part, everything converges into a single point of truth. The journey, the struggle, the doubt, and the growth all lead here, to the moment where destruction may finally become restoration. The fire rages ahead, the truth has been revealed, and the final choice is about to be made. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, stands at the final and most critical moment of her journey, everything around her feels suspended in time. The ocean roars violently, the sky burns with ash, and before her stands Teka, a force of pure destruction that has shaped the entire conflict of her mission. Yet Moana no longer sees only destruction, she sees loss, she sees imbalance, and most importantly, she sees truth. Holding the heart of Te Fiti tightly, Moana steps forward into the overwhelming heat. Every instinct tells her to stop, to turn back, to survive. But she no longer moves based on fear, she moves based on understanding. The journey she began as a confused daughter of Motunui has transformed her into someone who sees beyond appearances, someone who understands that healing is sometimes the only path forward. Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, stands nearby, ready to act but now fully aware that this moment belongs to Moana. His role has changed completely. He is no longer the center of power or the one who must solve the problem. Instead, he supports the truth she has discovered, recognizing that this final step cannot be taken by strength alone. With the ocean itself seeming to pause, Moana reaches the final point of decision. Teka unleashes its most powerful force, attempting to stop her completely, but Moana does not retreat. Instead, she walks directly toward the heart of the fire, holding the green stone forward, not as an object of defiance but as a symbol of restoration. In one final powerful act, Moana places the heart back into Teka. Everything stops: the destruction, the fire, the chaos, all of it freezes in a moment that feels both eternal and fragile. Then slowly, something begins to change. The fire that once defined Teka starts to soften. The rage begins to fade. The form of destruction begins to transform into something else entirely. Teka is revealed to be Te Fiti. The truth that Moana understood becomes reality before everyone's eyes. What once appeared as a monster was never truly an enemy. It was a being broken by the loss of its heart, transformed by pain into something unrecognizable. As the heart returns to its rightful place, the darkness dissolves completely, replaced by life, color, and creation. The transformation spreads across the world. The barren land begins to bloom again. The ocean calms and restores its balance. Life returns to places that had been lost to decay and darkness. Te Fiti, now restored, stands in peaceful form, her presence no longer one of destruction but of creation and harmony. Maui watches this moment with deep reflection. The hook that once defined his identity no longer carries the same weight. He has changed, not because he regained his powers, but because he finally understood responsibility, consequence, and humility. Moana's belief in truth and restoration has reshaped not only the world around them, but also him. As peace returns, Moana stands quietly, no longer defined by doubt or fear. She has completed the journey not just across the ocean, but within herself. She is no longer someone searching for purpose, she has become the embodiment of it. a leader who understands that true strength is not control but understanding. The ocean, once chaotic and uncertain, now flows gently around them. It no longer calls her as a question, it recognizes her as part of its balance. By the end of this final chapter, everything has been restored. The world is healed, the journey is complete, and the transformation is total. The heart has returned, the world has been restored, and Moana has fulfilled her destiny. After the restoration of Te Fiti, the world settles into a peaceful balance that feels almost unreal after everything that has happened. Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, stands quietly as the ocean around her returns to its natural rhythm. The violent storms, the ash-filled skies, and the overwhelming force of Taka are gone, replaced by calm waters and a sense of renewal that spreads far beyond what the eye can see. Life begins to return, not just to the land, but to the entire ocean system that had been disrupted. Te Fiti, now fully restored, exists in a peaceful and powerful form. There is no longer destruction in her presence, only creation and life. Her gaze reflects understanding rather than rage, as if the pain that once defined her has finally been healed. Without words, there is a silent acknowledgement between her and Moana, a recognition of what has been returned and what has been restored. Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, stands nearby, deeply affected by everything that has unfolded. His transformation is no longer just emotional, it is complete. The demigod who once relied on strength, ego, and recognition now understands something far more meaningful, that true heroism is not about being seen, but about doing what is right even when no one is watching. His hook, though still important, no longer defines him. Instead, it has become a reminder of his journey, his mistakes, his growth, and his redemption. He approaches Moana with a sense of humility that was not present at the beginning of their journey. There is no arrogance left, only gratitude and respect. Moana, in turn, acknowledges him not as someone who needs to be perfect, but as someone who chose to change. Their relationship has evolved from conflict to cooperation and now to mutual understanding. They are no longer forced allies, they are companions shaped by shared experience. As the time comes for Moana to return home, the ocean once again plays a guiding role. The journey back is different from the journey out. There is no fear, no uncertainty, and no hesitation. Instead, there is confidence, not in the absence of danger, but in the understanding that she is no longer the same person who left Motunui. Every challenge she faced has become part of who she is now. Maui chooses his own path as well. No longer driven by the need for validation, he understands that his role in the world is not fixed by his past or his reputation. He is free to redefine himself beyond the expectations that once controlled him. His farewell to Moana is not emotional in a dramatic sense, but meaningful, a recognition of growth on both sides. Moana's return journey is filled with reflection. She thinks about her island, her people, her father Chief Tui, and her grandmother Tala, whose spirit guided her at her lowest point. She realizes that everything she needed was never something she had to find outside of herself, it was something she had to understand within herself. As the island of Motunui comes into view, Moana is no longer uncertain or afraid. She is not returning as someone who left searching for identity. She is returning as someone who has found it. The ocean that once called her outward now carries her back home, not as a test but as a partner in her journey. The story settles into reflection and resolution. The battles are over, the transformation is complete, and the characters have changed forever. The world is restored, the journey is ending, and Moana is finally coming home as a true leader. As Moana, voiced by Auliʻi Cravalho, finally approaches the shores of Motunui, the island she once left behind feels both familiar and completely changed in her heart. The ocean gently carries her boat forward, calm and steady, as if honoring the journey she has completed. There is no fear in her now, only quiet understanding. The same waves that once pushed her toward uncertainty now guide her back with purpose and respect. The islanders gather as her boat arrives, watching in silence as Moana steps onto the shore. At first there is confusion, then recognition, and finally emotion. The girl who left as a curious, uncertain daughter of the chief has returned as someone transformed by experience, responsibility, and truth. She is no longer just the future leader, she has already become one. Chief Tui, played by Temuera Morrison, watches his daughter with a mix of pride and realization. He sees not only her growth, but the meaning behind everything she has done. The fears he once held about the ocean begin to fade as he understands that Moana's journey was not rebellion, it was discovery, restoration, and leadership in its truest form. Moana steps forward and shares what she has learned, not just about the ocean, but about their identity as a people. She reminds them that they are not meant to be limited by fear or boundaries, but shaped by understanding and courage. The ocean, once seen as dangerous and forbidden, is revealed to be part of who they are. It is not an enemy, it is a pathway, a connection, and a legacy. As she speaks, the islanders begin to see the world differently. The knowledge of their past as voyagers is no longer forgotten history, it becomes a renewed identity. The spirit of exploration returns, not as recklessness, but as purpose guided by wisdom. Moana does not force change, she inspires it through what she has become. Her father accepts her fully, recognizing that leadership is not about staying within safe boundaries, but about understanding when it is time to grow beyond them. The emotional distance that once existed between them dissolves into respect and pride. Moana is no longer just his daughter, she is the leader of their people. In the distance, the ocean watches calmly, as if acknowledging the completion of a cycle. The journey that began with a call from the sea has now come full circle. Moana's connection to the ocean is no longer a mystery or a struggle. It is a partnership built on understanding, trust, and shared purpose. Maui, played by Dwayne Johnson, is no longer physically present on the island, but his influence remains part of the journey's legacy. His transformation from a pride-driven demigod to a humbled protector of balance reflects the impact of Moana's courage and belief. As peace settles over Motunui, Moana stands at the shoreline one final time. The ocean does not call her away anymore. It stands with her. She is not leaving, she is not searching. She is exactly where she is meant to be. Everything comes together in harmony, the people, the ocean, and Moana herself. The journey that began with uncertainty ends in clarity, purpose, and identity. She is no longer the girl who asked the ocean where she belonged. She is the one who answered it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing movie breakdowns. See you in the next video.